Hello again, everyone. My name's Mark Wormsley, and I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're a growing global community of practitioners, professionals, enthusiasts, and supporters. We're at about 150,000, I think, now across our 8 LinkedIn groups, which is fantastic. But I don't get to meet everybody, sadly. But when I do, it's a delight. And Anne Plaisance has joined me today. Anne is one of our new full members, and we're going to have some fun this afternoon. I'm going to be creating Anne's fantasy cultural year from the answers to 10 easy questions. But before we do that, I'm going to thank her for being one of our full members. We're member funded, so entirely, so that's very much appreciated. And Anne, this is a chance for you to say hi to fellow members, tell us where you're based, the kind of work you're doing, what's exciting you for this year. It's all yours.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Anne Plaisance. I'm based in Boston, in Massachusetts, in the United States of America. I moved here like almost 10 years ago. I'm a visual artist, mainly a painter, but I'm doing also photography, installations, some videos. I wish I could do more videos, actually. Some conceptual art. And for the past 5 years, I've been also a curator for a project that I am the founder of called Wonder Women Now, which is a very impactful women empowerment and transformative art project about domestic violence.
Wow.
Um,
And
they,
when do you sleep with all that going on? That's great. Well, that's wonderful to be working in that way. That's fantastic. So I'd like to dive into some of your work, if that's okay. I'm going to share your website on the screen so that our guests can see it. And perhaps you'd give us, as a professional curator, you can give us a tour of your work. So where would you like me to? This is your website. It's at anneplaisance.com, which is perfect. And you've got a section here for art. Which would you like me to choose so that you can introduce us to some of your work?
maybe you have paintings.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we are.
There's
Wow.
a um,
Look at that. That's great. Are these all individual images? Oh, there we go.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. They're all individual images. I would say, yeah, I began mainly as a painter, so that's why I was thinking it's good to begin with that.
Yeah.
So you will see that actually I love portraiture,
Mm-hmm.
not the realistic one. I'm more into the magical realism than, hyper realism.
Yep.
And a lot of these paintings are from a series called Born to. So here you have Born to Play. There are paintings like Born to Have Fun, Born to Suffer. This one is called Born to Survive. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really a whole series going through the journey of a woman.
Mm.
Here it's Born to Hide. I might not remember all the titles because I've done a lot of these.
That's all right. This is Born to Be a Subject.
Yes, so it's
So,
more on the feminist side. This one is Born to Have NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder.
mm,
Yeah. So
fascinating.
there is a lot.
They have a sort of they have a really compelling quality. They're very, despite the subject matter and the inspiration behind them, they retain a sense of calm, which I love. It's almost like the paintings are resigned to the fact that, oh, I love Born to Be a Pirate. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I love that.
actually, this one was my first attempt at a self-portrait. And it was funny because at the time I was using, of course, a mirror, but I didn't notice that the mirror was a bit deformed, like, wasn't rendering the truth.
Ah,
I had someone come to the studio and say, "Eh, you're not, you know, you're thinner than that." And I was like, oh, so it was interesting. I had to make corrections to the painting.
and
Yeah.
this is lovely. This is a combination art form, isn't it? Poetry and storytelling and the art. I love that as well. That's born to
Yeah.
love. There we and how what size are these?
It
And
varies in centimeters. Like the portrait ones are around like 40 by 50 centimeters.
okay,
This one is more around 150 by 100 centimeters.
right.
Yeah. And I began actually the series with the previous one, which is Born to Die.
Which is
The one with the, yeah, this one. I
okay.
I heard a song on the radio. Uh, I can't remember the name of the artist right now. She's super famous. But the title of the song was Born to Die. And I was like, oh my gosh, the cycle of life.
Mm.
That was really what inspired me to
Well,
do it.
these are wonderful. I love it. The fact that they have a theme and some connections between them all. Um, and I think this is a group. Perhaps this looks like a group image, this one. Um, it doesn't want to come up.
Yeah, it's too shy.
It's shy, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
This one is, I made it during the first Trump presidency,
Mm,
and I modify the title, and yeah, it's my dog wants to take part in the conversation.
that's fine. So does mine, sitting here quietly. Yeah,
Yes,
make America love again. I love that. That's
exactly. I
great.
was like, we need more connection, we need more love, we need more discussions.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that, there's a lot of suffering on both sides in the
Mm,
United States. And yeah, so that was my view on
that's
what was
brilliant.
going on at the time.
Well, if our guests would like to browse through these, they're at amplaisance.com, which is great. But I know there's some photography in here as well, isn't there? So
Yes.
we could have a look at some of the, wow, look at these.
Oh, this one is part of the Wonder Women Now series. So I began this project in a shelter in Cambridge,
Mm-hmm.
shelter for survivors of domestic violence. And as I was doing art workshops with them, I was really inspired by their strength, their resilience, and I wanted to celebrate them. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I could never do what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes leaving their house with a child under the arm and, a plastic bag with just few things.
Yeah.
I wanted to celebrate them as, Wonder Women. So I did a whole series of photographs. Honestly, it was a beautiful moment to see their joy.
Mm,
I stand, like proudly with different items. So I brought masks that I had from Africa. I
mm-hmm.
brought also many fabrics from my traveling. And what they had to do was to pick like two elements from the Wonder Woman, attire, and then like just go wide and do whatever they wanted. And it was such a wonderful experience for them and for me because they got to see themselves in a completely different light, in a
Yeah.
way that they didn't see themselves. They were like soul crushed.
Mm, that's incredible. And these are really compelling as well. So fantastic. Anyway, that's so Anne is also on Instagram. You'll find her here at Anne Plaisance. But if you'd like to explore more of Anne's work, then it's at anneplaisance.com. So thank you so much for giving us that whistle-stop tour of your work, Anne. It's great. Thank you very much.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Excellent. Now we're going to have some fun now. I'm going to, the theme will be Wonder Women, okay, for this. That's my theme for you. I often learn what the theme will be, but from those conversations at the start of the meeting. But I'm going to create your fantasy cultural year, or do my best to do so, from the answers to some simple questions, okay? Now, the first thing I need to do is to place you somewhere in the world, okay? So I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite building?
Oh, that's a tough question. Right now, my home. Can it
That's
be
okay.
the answer?
Yeah, you can have at home. So you're at home near Boston, yes?
Yes, yes, yes. It's
Okay.
really, I feel a lot of peace and harmony, and I can rest and regenerate. That's what my favorite building is right now.
Okay, you're home and are you in Boston or outside Boston?
Outside Boston.
Is it a village or a town that you live in?
It's a little town.
What's it called?
Hudson.
Hudson.
Yes.
Hudson, Massachusetts. There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, I'd like you to imagine that I don't know Hudson. Actually, I'm going to find out because I love doing this because I need to place you somewhere specific.
Okay.
Hudson, Mass. There we go. Oh, lovely. Okay, images. You will recognize these. So I'll share my screen again so we can let people know where you are. There we go. So this is Hudson, Mass. That's a lovely, that's the one I wanted, I think. That will do nicely. Okay. Oh, there's an art framing shop there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's a lovely framing shop, by the way.
Yes, there we go. So I'd like you to imagine that you're sitting in the sunshine, looking at this building in Hudson, okay, in a
Mhm.
cafe, a street side cafe over the road.
Oh, I know exactly which cafe I would sit in.
Oh, that's what's it called? And we could find it. Do you know what it's called?
Crow's Nest. It's really lovely. There's like a good energy, I would say, in this coffee. Crow's Nest.
There it is. Oh, Crow's Nest, or have I spelt it wrong? Is
No,
it?
no, it's a Crow's Nest.
Okay.
Yeah, they opened a coffee maybe 2 years ago, something like that.
Okay. So okay, right. So you're sitting outside the Crow's Nest Cafe within sight of the framing shop in the center of your hometown, Hudson. The sun is shining. It's 6 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. Okay. And there is a drink by your side. What would we find there?
I think you would find me with a book.
A drink.
Ah, a drink. Oh, uh, that's a good question. I know they have some cocktails, so I think maybe I would have a cocktail.
Nice.
Chili
Okay.
cat. Yeah,
We're
chili cat.
creating the scene now.
Yes.
And a book. Yes. Now the book could be your favorite book. It could be a book that's been with you all your life or changed your life, or it could be a recent discovery. So what book would I find next to you there?
I'm reading a ton. So let me see. A book at the moment. Right now, I'm reading a book by Julia Cameron, like an
Okay.
exercise book about, doing the morning pages. So it might be this, or it might be a book of poetry or meditation. It's like I
Okay.
have like a growing pile of books near my bed. It's, yeah, I love books.
Excellent. Now you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've just come from a meeting in an office above that framing shop, which is one of the offices of a very wealthy Bostonian family foundation. And
Oh,
they like to fund research and projects in the arts. And they've found your Wonder Women series, and they would like to hire you for a year to travel the world documenting Wonder Women in different societies in paintings and photography. And it's a very well-paid trip, 12 months. Friends and family can come and visit you whenever you want. It's first class all the way. There'll be a TED Talk when you get back. There'll be a TV series called Wonder Women around the world. There will be a book deal. And when you get back, there will be a global university lecture tour. How does that sound?
That's, I moved, honestly. I'm like, don't cry, Anne, because it's beyond my dreams. It would be wonderful. It
That
would,
it would be wonderful. I'm glad I've found the right thing for you to do. It'll be a lovely experience, I think.
it would be amazing because I could expand the project. Right now, so there's an exhibition about like Wonder Women now, to which I invited many artists from the world. And my goal is to show it around the world. So I showed it around in Massachusetts, and I began to show it in Europe, in Bratislava in Slovakia. We are talking now with different organizations in Europe to show it in another space in Slovakia. And my goal is actually to show it around, in many French cultural centers or Alliance Française or galleries or art centers in Europe, in the world. So it really aligns with my, my dream, but it's like, I think the dream you expressed is even bolder. Sometimes I don't dare to dream. So I'm working on that. So I'm so moved that you expressed this, because that would be, the project is about empowering women and kids, families in general, to inform them about what domestic violence is. And very often people say, oh, it doesn't, it's not my problem, it's not my issue, I'm not concerned, etc. But my stance is that it can happen to anyone. And we experience manipulation at all levels, on every level of society. So, for example, I focus on, I can show you, what is the color of a lie, for example, or how gaslight smells. I developed, a series of
That's clever.
fake perfumes showing giving a tangible form to manipulation tactics that are very often intangible. How can you touch, shame, manipulation, future faking, abuse?
It takes a very creative mind to come up with that kind of juxtaposition. I think that's really clever that you're using an item, a luxury item, arguably, that people recognize to introduce a different way of thinking. I think that's very clever. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, in our year, so all you have to do is say, yes, please, I'm happy to do this year.
I will send, yes.
So I have a magic wand, and I also have a time machine, and I also have a Star Trek transporter. So this is a proper fantasy. We're not bound by travel. We can leap around the world at will. We can leap back in time as well. So the first thing I guess we need to do is to decide, if you were given that commission to create Warrior Women of the World as an art project, and starting with some research and then capturing the women that you encounter, where would you like to start?
Japan.
Japan. Okay, you're on the plane. Okay, you turned left when you got on the plane because you're traveling first class to Japan. The waiter, the steward brings you a cocktail and also a note from the wealthy Bostonian Family Foundation, who'd like to experiment on you a little bit. they've set you a challenge. The challenge is to only listen to one very specific type or genre of music for 12 months.
Wow,
If
that's
you,
very specific.
yes, if you had to do that, what would you choose?
Renaissance music.
Oh, love it. You see, I love the way all the pieces are coming together to illustrate the way that that you as a person. So we've got a cocktail, we've got Renaissance, we've got the book, and we've got the project. That's wonderful. Are there any composers who would figure highly on your Renaissance playlist?
No, I'm listening to a bunch of yeah, I'm not even looking, I'm just like putting Pandora on and I'm listening, and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just so beautiful.
Thomas Tallis. I love Thomas Tallis. I think he might be a bit later, but there is a choral work called Spem in Alium, and it's in about 30 different parts, and it builds and it builds. It's just incredible. Thomas Tallis, Spem in Alium, is just one of my favorite early music pieces. Really love it. Anyway, okay, so that's a deal. Now you get to Tokyo and you're met at the airport by a group of young people who want to take you under their wing, and they're all artists, and they've taken you to a loft apartment overlooking a cherry orchard next to a palace in Tokyo. And they say, right, relax, unpack, make yourself at home. We're coming back later to take you to a dance performance followed by dinner. Okay. Now, this is where the magic wand and the time machine come in, because you don't have to stick to Japanese culture. You can have any dance performance you like, historical, any dancers, living or not, any style, any group on that stage for 2 hours in front of you. If I could wave my magic wand and put your fantasy dance performance in front of you, what would it be?
I'm thinking about something I might do actually this summer in Kyoto, but I guess it happens also in Tokyo. They have Maiko dances every year,
Mm-hmm.
following the 4 seasons. And I think that would be interesting and inspiring.
You can have that. And what about dinner afterwards? What national cuisine would you choose? You don't have to stay Japanese.
I like sushi. I really enjoy a good
I
sushi.
do. I love sushi and bento as well.
Yeah, Tokyo is just a wonderful city to experience food and good whiskey too.
Yeah,
A tiny
absolutely.
bit of good whiskey. So,
Now we're going to hop to a different country now. Where shall we go?
hmm, that's a good question. I'm
Anywhere in the world looking for warrior women.
I'm very curious about Dubai because I have plenty of friends who told me about Dubai. I had a chance to go this year, but I didn't. I chose family over, fancy trip.
Mhm.
And I think it would be interesting because it's such a different culture that I don't know. So I would be curious
Okay,
it's a huge jump from Tokyo to Dubai, but
it is. But we have, you're traveling first class, so
it's okay.
it's okay. So you get to Dubai and it's sport day in the United Arab Emirates. Um,
It's it's what? A sports day?
sport,
Sport.
sport,
Okay.
yes, because we had breakdancing in the Olympics in Paris. So some sport could be considered performance art. So but you can have anything you like. Is there a sport you'd particularly enjoy watching for a couple of hours while you're in Dubai? It doesn't have to be, it can be any sport you like.
That's a tough question because I really have a hard time watching sports. Honestly, I tried many times. Maybe the only one when I'm able to focus for more than 10 minutes is tennis
Okay.
because I play tennis.
We
So
we'll let you play as well. It just so happens that there's a huge championship in Dubai, the Dubai Open or something is on, so you can watch that. Now, do you prefer to sit at the net or behind the player?
like, you know, as close as possible to see the game well.
Yeah, I would have to be behind a player because I can't do this all the time, you know.
I think I could do it.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Now we're going to hop again to another city. So we've been in Tokyo, we've been in Dubai, we started in Hudson. So where are we going next? Anywhere you like.
I would love to go back to Warsaw in Poland because I lived in Poland for 18 years and I have many friends there. And it's always, you know, a pleasure to see them. So I could do the project and spend time with them.
Perfect. Well, so we're in Warsaw, and in Warsaw there is a new digitally enhanced art gallery. And that's where you can put on a virtual reality headset and step into the work of a famous artist. It's three-dimensional, it's in 360 degrees, it could be animated, and you can walk around and see in 3 dimensions what the artist wasn't able to show us in 2 dimensions. So which famous artist's work would you like to step into and explore?
Does it have to be a living artist or a dead artist?
Either, doesn't matter. Anyone you like.
Louise Bourgeois.
Louise Beauvoir.
Bourgeois.
I'm
Yes.
going, let's have a look for her. How do you
I
spell
love
Beauvoir? Oh, there, Louise Bourgeois.
Louise Bourgeois.
Oh,
Her
I've seen these recently. These are incredible. I'm going to share my screen so that everyone can see.
There was an incredible exhibition of her works at the Tate a few years ago.
I remember the spider being at in the turbine room in the Tate.
Yeah,
Um, Tate. Yeah, it was they had it indoors, look.
yeah. Her work is so strong and inspiring, and I love the fact that she has an extent of different, you know, means to express what she wants.
Yeah,
So sometimes you approach a work and you have no clue what it is about, and you enter the work, or you go closer, or you go around, and you just, you know, you
yeah.
understand it with your soul.
It's incredible. So you get to walk around inside this work. That's fantastic. Okay, that's a great choice. So where are we? Let's just so we've done that one. Right. Now I'm going to whisk you back to London.
Okay,
And we're going out every night of the week. We're going to
like a good plan. I can do
we're
that.
going we're going to a concert, a rock or pop or music concert on Monday. We're
Okay.
going to a theatre play on Tuesday. We're going to a West End or Broadway musical on Wednesday. We're going to the opera on Thursday, and we're going to the cinema on Friday. Okay. And you get to choose what we can see. And remember, I have a time machine and a magic wand. So is there a concert, rock, pop, or whatever, or classical? Is there a music concert that you would love to go back to and experience again?
Yes. Many years ago, I saw Tom Waits in concert in Warsaw, and that was such an incredible experience. I was really close to the scene. It was a gigantic concert venue, but he managed to transform it into like a very, I would say, like, you know, like a smaller theater. He really worked on the theater of the mind, the mind theater. I don't
Mm,
remember how you say that. Like all the lights were off, and there was just one light on him, and he had some. So everything was dark. You could just see Tom Waits. He had some cray or charcoal, something on the floor. So while he was singing and sometimes talking, he was, you know, moving with his feet. So you had like a white, you know, cloud. Uh,
mm,
I don't know. There was something really special about this concert.
that's great. We'll go back to that
Yeah.
together. Excellent. And We're in London, so we'll go to the theatre for a theatre play. Is there something that you would particularly like to watch? We have the Globe Theatre for Shakespeare, if we wish.
Yeah. I was thinking first about Shakespeare, but I was like, we both have a magical one. So maybe
Yeah,
seeing like, a piece by Molière, like, transported in time.
that would be lovely.
That would be interesting.
What's the one I played? I performed in a Molière play. Inspector Calls? No. Um, oh no, the something. The Miser. I think that's Molière. The
Uh,
Miser.
le Misanthrope.
Possibly. Hang on, let me find it. Molière.
I know the titles in French, but in English
Yeah,
it's
let me see. Yeah. The Miser, yeah. It's that's a Molière. That's Molière. I'm just trying to think of the what it is in French. Um, bear with me. It is L'Avare.
L'Avare. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, is good too.
yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. And what about a West End or a Broadway musical?
Sorry.
A
Sorry.
West End or a Broadway musical, perhaps?
Yeah, so actually for a musical, I was thinking about Tommy by the Who's.
Oh, no, do you know what? No one's ever cited that. I've done 300 of these interviews now, and no one's ever chosen Tommy. Pinball Wizard. Excellent. What a great choice. I love that.
And the music is just, it was stuck in my mind.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Now,
Uh,
Anne, are you an opera buff? Do
I
you like
begin
opera?
I begin to appreciate more and more opera. It's not yet my entire cup of tea, but I'm getting there.
Mm.
Slowly but surely, yeah.
Is there an opera that you'd like to see, or shall I suggest one?
I think you can suggest something. There's one artist that, oh my gosh, he has such a beautiful voice. His name is Jakub. Of course, I can't remember his name right now.
See if I can find it. It's always nice to give people the chance to go and is he
It's
a
he's Polish.
Mita? Yaku Mita? No,
No,
Yaku Tafari.
maybe. Oh yeah, okay. Jakub Józef Orliński.
Okay. How are you
Or,
spelling that? Olinsky.
Orliński. Orliński.
Okay.
His voice is just like, I don't know. I have chills when I listen to
Oh,
him.
I'm going to have a listen to that. So
Uh,
we could, is he a tenor or a bass or a baritone? Do you know what his voice is? Does it say on there?
he's a countertenor.
A countertenor. Wow. That's
Yeah,
incredible. Those countertenors, they used to be in many years ago that they were castrati.
I know.
Yeah, so countertenors now are effectively performing those really, really high male parts. That's great.
I,
Excellent.
f- I find him very interesting because his voice is just like, I don't know, it's like you're listening to an angel singing. He has an
Mm.
incredible voice, but at the same time, he's full of joy, of energy, and he's a dancer.
Hmm.
So you can see him, I guess, on YouTube performing like all kinds of, dance performance, but very contemporary, like hip hop, etc. So the
Yeah,
contrast between opera and very modern dance is like very interesting.
fascinating. Brilliant. That's great. I love that. So that's there. And for we're nearly there, and I'm going to leave you to go and do this year of study and production. And but we've got to do film night. I'd like you to suggest a film that you love that I probably haven't seen.
Hmm. Oh gosh. I must admit I don't have a TV at home. So I don't watch many movies. Um, I'm watching sometimes on my computer, but
Mm.
honestly, I don't think I have a movie that I usually watch a movie and then I'm not watching it again, but maybe the one that is coming to my mind that is like kind of bringing joy, is charming, is Amélie Poulain. But
Am-
I'm sure you saw it.
Amelie,
Amélie, yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure you saw it. So,
I'm going to, my father was a huge Jacques Tati fan. He
uh,
loved Jacques
yeah.
Tati, Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, Traffic, some wonderful films. I haven't been able to find them all, but I think we'd have to watch a little because that would be. My father used to pretend he was Jacques Tati and do the tennis scene. Brilliant. There we go. Now, before I leave you to go and travel, I'm going to give you a hero lunch. You can invite anybody, any single person to have lunch with, a nice leisurely 2-hour lunch in London at a Japanese restaurant for sushi and bento. And that it can be anyone you like, famous or otherwise, living or not, historical, somebody who you would dearly love to chat to for 2 hours to ask them the questions that you'd always wanted to ask. Who would you choose?
Oh my gosh, I have so many people I would love to meet. But the first one who came to my mind is Leonardo da Vinci,
Yeah.
because of his, the extent of his knowledge, of his curiosity, of his skills and talents.
Mm,
That's the one I would love to have lunch with.
that's great. Now, as a final twist in our conversation, who do you think Leonardo da Vinci would invite?
Hmm. I would say, I think that let's imagine that he's living right now in our, century. I think he might be interested by artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
And I think he would invite someone for lunch, like, one of the um, top CEO, maybe the CEO of OpenAI to have a conversation. Because
That
I'm
would
sure he would be very intrigued by, what is going on and the extent of the knowledge, the applications, the transformation.
well, when you think what was he with us 500 years ago? So if he would, of all people, probably understand it,
Yes,
okay. But
yes,
the what's happened in the 500 years since he was alive to get to a point where he was designing helicopters that you couldn't make, right?
yes,
And now and making the most famous painting in the world
exactly.
ever. And now he's got to grapple with understanding what AI is all about. Can you imagine that the next leap, 500 years? What if we had to leap ahead 500 years and somebody told us the equivalent of AI for them in 500 years? Heaven knows what that's going to be. It's going to be very exciting to find out, although we won't be here to find out. But there we go. And thank you so much for doing this today. It's been a joy hearing your preferences and the stories. And wherever this appears, there will be a lovely profile that Isabel will write that. Say hi, Isabel. Yeah, Isabel's here. She will write a profile about you. Anything you'd like us to include, videos, audio, images, copy, just make sure we have it and we'll include that. That'll go on YouTube, on SoundCloud and Spotify, and on our website and on our LinkedIn group. And we'll fly the flag for you and the work that you're doing. So thanks again for being one of our full members. It's very much appreciated. Have you enjoyed your fantasy cultural year, Anne?
Yes, it gave me a lot to think about. I think I need to dream more. I
Love.
need to, yeah, I need to spend more time like dreaming crazy. And one last thought, because after, regarding the movies, Actually, after I mentioned Amélie, I was thinking about Kieślowski, the trilogy White, Blue, and Red. That actually, I think it made a strong impression on me.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, but I'm sure you've seen all these movies.
I haven't. I honestly, I haven't. That sounds like a great one. I'll have to have a look. Please don't rush off. But for the time being, thank you very much again, Anne, for joining
Thank
me
you so
today.
much.
And no doubt we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate. Thank you.